Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the January 19th, 2022 Worcester Township Board of Supervisors business meeting. Would you please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? My name is Rick DeLello. I'm the chairman of the board. To my left is Lou Betts, who's our vice chair. To my right is Steve Quigley, who's our third member. On the side table in the front, we have Bob Brandt, who's our township solicitor. We have Joe Nolan, who's our township engineer. And on the back table, we have Stacy Crandell, who is our assistant township manager, and Tommy Ryan, who is our township manager. First and foremost, does anybody have any informational items for the board tonight?
Yes, this evening's meeting is being video recorded for rebroadcast. Also, prior to this evening's meeting, the board met in executive session to discuss three matters. The first, a matter of potential litigation with regards to zoning hearing board application 21-17 Williamson. The second, a matter of potential litigation in specific regarding the award of a bid contract. And the third, a matter of land acquisition in specific consideration of a potential purchase for property that is west of Valley Forge Road.
Thank you, Tommy. Next item on our agenda is public comment. We do ask that you limit your public comment to 5 minutes. Does anybody have any public comment for the board tonight? Sir, why don't you come forward? I'd ask you to list your name, sit down right there. Jot down your name, then pull the mic close to you, and then the floor is yours.
I'm John Roberts. I live
John.
at 3108 Skipback Pike, and I'm here about the zoning of 2117. I'm right next door to that piece of property.
Okay.
And my concerns is that their sewer system is a septic system with a drain field. It cannot handle what they have there now. And you guys want to put 15 recovery people in that, so that means it'll be 18 people for that recovery house. There's no way that that system can handle that volume of sewage.
Okay. So this is a matter of litigation, so I can't say a lot about it. Ultimately, first and foremost, there's a process with the zoning hearing board where they have an application in front of the zoning hearing board. Just as a point of clarification, we as a board aren't telling them what they can or can't do. They're going before our zoning board on that particular item. And certainly, one of the items Bob can certainly speak to at our solicitor, but certainly conditions to any type of approval or any type of situation like that would certainly be addressed. What you're sort of referencing in terms of a concern over that would certainly be something that a condition would have to be met if they even decided they were going to approve it ultimately. Okay. Bob, do you want to comment on that, Bob? I don't want to.
Sure. Is it Mr. Roberts? Is that your
Yes, it is, sir.
Yeah. So I'm Bob Brandt. I'm the solicitor.
Nice to meet you, Bob.
Sure. So we've had the board, it's on the agenda this evening for the board to possibly authorize me to intervene in the matter, which would mean the board sends me or one of my associates to the zoning hearing. Zoning hearing board's rather sophisticated zoning hearing board. They're familiar with these type of cases. But in cases like this, where there's a concern, specifically the one you addressed, we've had conditions placed on these types of things in the past, and I'm going to read you a condition that we would ask if the zoning board decides they want to grant the relief that it be imposed. And here's the condition. It says, this is one that was on a former group home case, so I'm not coming up with this originally. Within 60 days of the approval, applicants shall apply for and obtain all approvals related to the good operation of the on-site septic system for the occupancy permitted in compliance with all current regulations, follow testing protocols regarding percolation rates under the guidance of a soil scientist and under the supervision of the Department of Health, make upgrades and improvements as required, and provide proof of same to the township. If the septic system fails to be so certified, the applicants shall cause the property to be connected to public sewer.
There's no public sewer there, sir.
I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm just giving you a condition that we would ask to be imposed on the property.
Okay.
And I would encourage you to go to the zoning hearing board. That's the jurisdiction that hears that. These folks don't hear these cases, but they're, in fact, they appoint the zoning board members. But
Well, I'm here to try to get you to show up at that, too.
Yeah, if I was a betting man, that might be a good bet to take.
Okay.
So,
Well, we also have another issue with this piece of property, too. They have a legal house on that property. I do not see no permits for that barn in the back to have a living quarters there,
well, we'll check into that as well.
okay? And then on top of that, it's very unsafe, that barn.
I want you to make sure you go to the zoning board and articulate that at the time that you're asked for testimony at that hearing.
Okay,
'Cause this is not a hearing, this is a public meeting.
correct.
It's a hearing, at which point there's a court reporter, there's a solicitor of the zoning board, there's evidence, there'll be attorneys and all that, but don't let attorneys intimidate you. I would just go there and, say what you're going to say in common sense terms.
Right,
Okay?
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, thank
We
you.
appreciate your public comment.
Yep.
Does anybody else have any public comment for the board tonight? Okay, seeing none, I will move on. So the first official action item we have tonight is our consent agenda. First and foremost, does either board member wish to remove any items from the consent agenda tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then if somebody would like to make a motion, I will entertain that.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda, treasurer's report, bill payment, December 15 business meeting, and January 3 reorganization meeting minutes.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion that is on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item is a waiver. First waiver is going to be a motion to approve a waiver of land development to allow construction of a putting green and croquet court at Meadowwood Senior Living Facility on Skipback Pike. I'm going to start with you, Joe, if you just give me a little snapshot for the board, and then we'll see where there are questions thereafter.
Mr. Woodrow submitted a letter to the township in November regarding Meadowwood's desire to install a artificial putting green and a croquet court at the front of the property adjacent to the parking lot. I think we have do we have a plan? Obviously, we told them that they'd have to look at stormwater and grading and the typical things. But they asked if the board would require land development for this, and we suggested if they wanted to come to the board, they could ask for a waiver of land development. We would still make them go through the requirements for stormwater, grading, landscaping in the area. We do have a plan that was submitted by Mr. Woodrow, and upon the board's decision, if the board grants the waiver, I will proceed with a formal review of the plan like I would normally do anyway, and I believe Mr. Woodrow will address any comments that I have.
That's fair enough. Does anybody have any specific questions for Joe or for Tim with regard to this particular waiver? I know in the past we've granted these in the past.
Rick, I think they're doing a lot of work over there as it is. And certainly, this is a rather small piece of ground they're going to be working on. And they said they would do the necessary work that had to be done to the property. So I have no problem moving forward with it.
I have no problem with it.
Okay, then I'll entertain a motion if somebody'd like to make one.
We'll make a motion to approve the waiver.
Hold on.
This won't add another 18 holes, will it? I mean, we're starting off with a putting green, and they're going to need no golf course added to it? Okay.
It's conceivable that they could have 18 holes, though, on the putting green. That's possible, too. I mean, that's creative design, Tim, but I'm sure you could handle that.
Go off a small little.
Right.
I'll make a motion to approve the waiver for the land development for construction of a putting green at Meadowwood.
And I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next item is another waiver, and this is going to be a waiver to approve a waiver of land development to allow construction of an entryway extension at the Central Schwenkfelder Church on Valley Forge Road. Joe, what do we got here?
We met with members of the church and Mr. Woodrow's office regarding the church's desire to add a more formal entrance on the side entrance to the church. That entrance is a lot closer in the normal place where people park. Rather than going around to the front, they want a side entrance. It would be a structure, overhang structure, roof structure. There would be no increase in impervious area because it would be constructed on existing blacktop rather than just straight permit. We also suggested that they request a waiver of land development from the board.
Understood. If I'm understanding correctly, if I'm facing sort of on the left-hand side where the parking lot is, you're talking about on that side of the facility, is that correct? Am I understanding just, okay.
Right.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Mr. Chairman, once again, I think it's not a lot of dirt here, a lot of erosion. It's mainly blacktop, and I'm sure the water will be controlled there in the present drain system. So as far as the waivers, I don't think we need to tie it up to go through the whole land development. So I have no problem moving forward with it.
It's a small project. I think we're good.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion then.
Make a motion to approve the waiver of land development for the Central Schwenkfelder Church.
And I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. You're welcome. Next item is going to be Resolution 2022-07, and this is going to be a resolution to authorize execution of an agreement for electronic access to Pennsylvania Department of Transportation Systems. Who's got info on this?
The township is working with PennDOT on the Valley Forge Road Corridor project, and that project is managed in part through the ECMS system of PennDOT. PennDOT will allow the township access to its system, conditioned upon the township agreeing to a understanding on the use of the system, and that is before the board this evening.
Okay, so my first question is probably for Bob, and it's probably my only question, is are we assuming any undue or unnecessary liability by signing that document for access?
No.
Okay. Any questions on either side?
Who's having access to it? Is it limited, Bob?
Tommy would know the details better than me.
Yeah, I have access to it, and the township traffic engineer.
Did you hear him?
Okay.
Okay.
It seems like something we need, straightforward, we need to do it. I certainly have no issue with it if somebody wants to make a motion.
Make a motion that we approve Resolution 2022-07, execution of the agreement for electronic access to Pennsylvania Department of Transportation.
And I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, we've got Resolution 2022-08. This is going to be a resolution to appoint an alternate member to the Worcester Township Planning Commission. For folks who attended our reorganization meeting, we discussed this at the reorganization. You'll recall, those who were not there, we had the opportunity to consider a candidate to an alternate position on our planning commission. And ultimately, I think it was Steve who had suggested that adding another person based on some of the items that are coming before that particular body, it seemed good to sort of have somebody additional in the wings. The mechanics of doing that is we couldn't appoint them at the reorganization meeting. We need to do it by resolution in this meeting. So we've already discussed it, and unless anybody has additional comments they want to make at this time, ultimately, we're just now dealing with the resolution for what we discussed and agreed to at the reorganization meeting.
No questions.
Any questions or comments, Steve?
No. As I said before in the reorg meeting, that I think it's important to have people waiting in the wings, sitting there as a alternate, just in case they're needed in the future, at least to have some experience. During that period of time, we can sort of judge the person and see how they're doing.
Sounds good. So if somebody would like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-08 to appoint an alternate member to the Township Planning Commission.
And I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have a bid award, and it's going to be a motion to award a bid for the Northeast Extension Sound Barrier Project. Joe?
Thank you. We opened bids on January 12th for the Turnpike sound barriers that are going to be constructed partially along the Turnpike from Burks Road. And we received a total of 6 bids. And the bid included a base bid and a base bid plus an alternate. The base bid, the low base bid was submitted by JPS Construction Company, Inc., in the amount of $699,000. After reviewing the bids, we're recommending that the township award the base bid to JPS Construction for their bid amount.
Thank you, Joe. You want to make a motion, please?
I'll make a motion, we accept the bid award for JPS Construction for the Northeast Extension Sound Barrier Project.
And I'll second that motion. It's something the township's been working on for a long time. With the grant being there, I think it's important for the township to expedite this matter and move forward on behalf of the residents that live in that area. So I will second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Next up is a motion. We're going to have a motion to authorize the township solicitor to participate in the zoning hearing board application 21-17, which is the Williamson application. That was the one that you were mentioning, Mr. Rogers, earlier. Ultimately, we need to, by motion, authorize Bob to go on our behalf and intervene on our behalf. We've done this in certain applications in the past. I think it certainly warrants and makes sense here. If any other members have any comments, they can make them. Otherwise, I will entertain a motion for that authorization.
I'll make a motion to approve the authorization of the township solicitor to participate in the zoning hearing board application 21-17.
And I will second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Next up, we've got another motion. This is going to be a motion to certify qualified volunteers for the Act 172 Earned Income Tax Credit for 2021. Tommy, could you just clarify what this is for folks in case they're not clear?
A few years back, the township took advantage of Act 172 legislation in the state that allows local government to waive real estate taxes and/or earned income taxes for qualifying volunteers who run with the fire company. The township established a program that exempts up to the first $200,000 of earned income, and this is before the board this evening, a list of those qualifying volunteers who earned the tax credit for fiscal year 2021.
Perfect. So I think this was the first action that we did for the volunteers, and then we added a stipend a year or two after that. Certainly just small ways that I think we can obviously give a little bit of a benefit to the fire company, as it certainly provides, these members certainly provide a lot of service to us in exchange. It's a small thing we can do. I'm certainly very supportive of that. Does anybody have any questions or comments on it at this point?
I'm in full support of helping the fire department any way we can, so I believe that's a great thing, so.
Second.
I'll I'll make a motion.
Gonna make a motion first.
I thought
Jump in the
you did that.
Unless you
Sorry.
nudge them and wake them, or I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I'll make a motion to certify the qualified volunteers back 172 earned income tax credit for the 2021.
You know, Rick, I was looking at the papers. Tom, did you have any idea how many people used that last year?
Sorry?
How many people used it?
Yeah, last year, we had 37 qualifying volunteers. This year, we had 35.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's very good. I mean, once again, it encourages those people to get involved, and I think it's a good thing we can do, so. Once again, I'll second it again.
Perfect. So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any public comment regarding the motion on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up, we have other business. Does any board member have any other business they wish to discuss with the board tonight?
Not.
I have nothing.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Moving on, we have public comment. We ask that you limit your public comment to 5 minutes. Does anybody have any final public comment they wish to make to the board this evening? Jeremy?
Good evening. I'm here to ask about an email that I sent throughout the month regarding an agenda item to be put on the agenda. I came last month and asked what the mechanism was to get an agenda item on, and I was told email it in. I did email it in. I did not get any response on the request to put it on the agenda. So I'd just like to figure out, did I not meet a deadline, or is it still being considered, or where that agenda item may be that was requested?
So in terms of getting an item on the agenda, the board will, I know I received the email, and the board would then make a determination individually whether they wanted to add it to the agenda or not, and no board member chose to add it to the agenda. So you didn't do anything incorrectly. I mean, you submitted an item that you thought you'd like to have added as an agenda item, and then one of the board members or all of the board members would decide whether to add that to. There's not a, we do try to get it a couple of weeks in front, but ultimately you send something in, and then no board member made a determination to add it to the agenda. That's the piece that ultimately this board would decide on.
Okay, so no response letting me know that? It just, I have to come here and ask?
Well, we need to give opportunity for any board member independently to make that request, which could happen up until the end, up until the meeting, ultimately. But if I wasn't clear last month in how I explained that, I apologize. The agenda is, it's set by the board. You can request an item at any time, and the board will decide whether they want to add it or not, but each individual board member has that discretion to request something.
So I'm going to ask another question then. The board doesn't think it's important enough to have a policy around when township employees can access private property, and they have the right to access private property anytime they want? Because that's basically what you're saying by not having a policy in place to address when township employees can access private property.
Okay.
Without a policy, I'm going to assume that your stance is that there is no policy, and there were alleged 26 visits made to these properties, almost none of which I was advised about or told it was happening. And if they were on my property, in addition to that, I'm being directed by the township manager at 5:49 in the morning to go walk private property and take pictures and videos of somebody else's private property. So what are we doing here by sending employees and residents on other private property without any policy or guidelines around it? It's going to get us in big trouble.
Okay.
Is it too late to put a policy in play for next month?
So we can have an agenda item to talk about the policy at any time that anybody wants to add that particular item to an agenda. I don't set that one way or the other. That's not my, I don't stop it, I don't make it. So if anybody wants to do that, if you guys want to have that conversation, we can. If you want to have that conversation, we can certainly have that conversation.
Thank you. And just remember, this is, because I'm getting down to the bottom of the time here, but this is all stemming from the incident that you're all aware of, which is the storm water issue and the regrading and the repaving. So, I want to be real clear. I'm not looking for the township to come do anything to my property. I don't want anything done on my property. I'm not asking for any money or any handouts from this township. I'm going to continue to come here and address these concerns that I have for the betterment of this community and the residents who live here. Because you may sit here and say that we came to a disagreement on where we ended up in a decision that was made. And I don't even think you guys are considering all the facts of the situation. Because when I do right to knows and I get information back of the professionals who were paying to do, you, me, you, everybody here, the tax-paying residents, are paying professionals to do a job, and I don't see that job getting done, I have to bring my concerns here to get them addressed. Because what are we paying professionals to do if they're not doing it? Right? There's comments in here about all these residents are getting together and making this a bigger deal than it is, from the professionals we're paying to deal with a problem. That's a pretty brash opinion and statement to make when you got 3 residents down here saying we got a problem and someone to say, oh, they're all talking and making a bigger deal than it is. You guys know I've been coming here for a long time. I've been taking videos and pictures for a year and a half. There's another comment by our professionals that we're paying that says, I bet, Bob, you talked about being a bet man earlier. I wouldn't have taken this bet because the bet was, I bet all the videos are from the same storm. Come on, guys. I've been coming here long enough to know that all the videos aren't from the same storm. So either there's some assumptions being made before these assessments are even being done that are incorrect and not fair to the residents, or the information the residents are providing to try and factually support what's truthfully going on here aren't being passed correctly to our professionals to understand what's really going on and make a proper assessment instead of a bunch of opinions, like I said before, that are then the ultimate decision being made on what I consider a lot of unprofessionalism from the professionals we're paying to do a job for our residents.
Okay?
Jeremy, I guess I'll go to Bob. Once again, I think a lot of things have changed in the township over the years, and we really try to be listeners here. In years past, they just push off and nothing gets done. You may think nothing gets done, but we do hear what you say. I guess the question comes in as far as having a township policy, and I have to agree as a landowner that I do business with the county, and before the county steps onto my property, they send a letter, hey, listen, I'll be there in 2 weeks. I guess I'll turn to Bob asking, in other townships, not so much Worcester, how do you operate when an inspection comes up? Or when I want to give him an answer that,
Yeah, the code officers, zoning officers have the right to inspect properties, right? That's statutory, that's the right. I don't know, Jeremy, I don't know specifically what email you're talking about because I don't think I got it. So I don't know what you're talking about when you say a policy. But the governing body, through its officers, and I don't mean police officers, I mean zoning officers and code officials, have the right to inspect properties for looking out for the public health, safety, and welfare of the community. So they do that. I don't know your specific situation, and when you talk about professionals, I don't know if you're talking about me or not, but I don't have a deep knowledge of what you've requested the board to look at in terms of a policy. Did you give them something specific?
I was told there were 26 visits made to a property that resulted in an assessment that I don't think is fair to the situation at hand. And then when I asked, prove to me you were there 26 times, and what did you document to help support your assessment? There's no proof that can be provided of the 26 visits. And I asked for the videos and the pictures, and I got back videos and pictures from all these other residents, not the township manager who claimed to come there 26 times and inspect the situation. I got regurgitated back to me stuff from other residents, not what was used to create the assessment here.
I guess the question is, like trying to solve the problem, when a zoning officer or an engineer or the township manager goes on to someone's property, in other townships, do they have to notify the owner, or do they have the ability to go out and just walk and?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I try to adapt. My suggestion is you use the common sense approach,
Right.
And that's what I adopt. I don't know. I can't recite to you the policy in Royersford Borough or any of that, but a lot of it is common sense.
Common sense. Now, once again, I'm referring to other townships, not Worcester. Is there usually a log kept? Is the township manager responsible to keep a log from his traveling around the township?
I don't get that active in the day-to-day operation, so I would be incorrect if I told you I know the answer to that for each of the places I represent. I do not know. but I would suspect that there's some sort of record, some sort of backup information as a result of the visit. Sometimes a memorandum to a file, sometimes, a log, sometimes something like that. And I don't know what Worcester's policy is either, so.
Yeah, Rick, I would assume there is no policy, correct? I mean, it's.
I'm not
looked
aware,
into.
so there's a couple things, and there's different reasons why you might visit a property, okay? There's different scenarios why we may have somebody that goes out. We have public works employees that are out every day. We have a township manager that's conceivably out multiple times a week driving around. We're not logging that, and I don't support a policy that's saying, I drove down this road at this time. I just don't. It's exception.
That's common sense and if it's.
Right. So there's scenarios, and, without getting too deep into the weeds, one of the items we talk about in executive session, there might be reasons where ultimately there's an enforcement or something, or a scenario where no, like,
Or
it's,
or a complaint about.
there could be a variety of things, and ultimately that doesn't adhere back to a policy. And the other element is just, is a question of saying, okay, we, in the past year, I think it was 399 building permits and 236 zoning permits in 2021, I think was the number that we got. So I stop and I say, well, how often has a question been raised? And you have raised the question, Jeremy, and I'm not disputing anything that you're saying. What I have to then say is that's over 600 building permits. We don't have a multitude of people coming saying, you did this on my property or that. We don't get that. So it's an issue for me of exception management to say, do we need to formalize to say whatever, and again, if you two feel differently about that, again, it's not solely my decision. I didn't think it warranted being an agenda item because it gets into the weeds on something that I don't think we needed to articulate in extensive, that if it's these sets of conditions, we go on site, and these, we follow these. I mean, we wind up over-managing a scenario that you're not comfortable, and I understand you're saying you're not asking for anything for your particular situation, but your particular situation is what drove your additional questions, I believe, and that's why I didn't think it warranted a discussion here, because I don't think I think we do use common sense in many scenarios. I think, Joe goes out and inspects properties for us on a very regular basis. I don't know what he does every single time he does that. I don't know, sometimes there's an ability to sort of document that back, but not always. But again, if we want to put it on and give it some thought and say, hey, let's get it on next month's agenda and talk about scenario, I'm not opposing that. I'm just saying that I didn't think it warranted it. We all had the same email. It wasn't my decision to not put it on.
No, thank you. I appreciate the conversation. You are right. My situation is driving my continued questions and will continue to drive my questions
That's
around
fair.
process procedure and what I perceive as unprofessionalism in dealing with our residents. And no other resident should have to deal with some of the stuff that we're dealing with on Windy Hill Road, and professionals making assumptions here that we're making a bigger deal than it is, or we're only talking about one event, when 4 months ago, I specifically came here and said, exclude the two hurricanes, the one in 2020 and one in 2021, because they're anomalies and they're not going to be able to be used in addressing the situation or evaluating it. But that's the exact event that I bet all the videos are from the same day. No, there are videos from multiple events over a year and a half that I don't even think are being looked at by the professionals and being considered. So for it to continue to be said to me, go file a claim if you have a problem, that's not the problem here. Like, this problem is so much bigger than my property on Windy Hill Road. This is the next person who comes in here with a problem that gets treated unprofessionally and doesn't get what they deserve as a resident of this township. Rick, last month you said, we will take that as an action. We will take that away from here. I heard nothing over the last month. I don't know if you remember what you said, but if you don't, you should go back and look at what the comments were. And in the last meeting where you said, we will take that and look at it outside of here. And I've heard nothing back since. So it's the same thing again and again, right? Not getting answers. I sent 2 emails in the past month that I didn't get responses on. 2.
Jeremy, just a follow-up to that. I sat on the Soil Conservation Board for, I don't know, it's been a while, but we had technicians that would go out to developments around the county, and it was always a problem with the developer there with moving earth. that when these technicians showed up, and those meetings were unannounced because they were trying to maybe catch the developer doing something, either not putting the sediment fences up or grading in the wrong area or doing things they shouldn't be doing. So I know the polish for that. I also sit on the farm board now where we don't go out and do inspections. We have a bunch of technicians that work for the county that go out and look at preserved ground, fields, and things like that, that the county has vested money in it. I'm going to look into it. I will try to find out what the county's policy is on that, asking Mr. Brandt. It's an interesting fact. Once again, we've never dealt with that. No one's really ever questioned the township coming out before, so I think it's something we look into. Not saying we're not against it. As I said, we're all property owners. We all have concerns about our property. Who comes onto it? Is our property open to people come on at any time? You know, would you be upset? I know there was a situation where one of the old supervisors were going on private people's property removing signs, which
signs.
created a real problem. And
Predates us.
I understand that. So we'll look at least I'll look into it and try to start the communication with the board to try to come up with some kind of policy. I understand what you're saying. It's never come up before, so I think just because it's not been done doesn't mean it can't be done.
I think the policy will help in the future. And again, this is way bigger than one policy and way bigger than the issue that I brought to this township and this board. And you guys are refusing to look at that situation and see what the real problem is here. Thank you.
Is it too late to put this on agenda for next month as?
No, it's not too late to do that. But
we're
it's
gonna
not. If we did,
formal-
it's not too late if you want to put it on. Again, the agenda gets set by the three of us
Yeah,
in the next couple of weeks. If you feel that it's a topic worth discussing, then we will.
He has a unique situation. I believe it should be addressed, and I believe we should have, he uses the word common courtesy, common sense. I think we should have something that's, the residents feel they need notify, I guess, before. There's always emergencies, and I get it, that you have to go out and do what you got to do. But
Yeah.
I'd like to at least dress the conversation to have a conversation on that. I don't know how to word it any different than that.
And for what it's worth, I'll take a look and see if I could find some similar
It's fine.
for you. I don't know if they exist or not, but I'll try.
Tommy, a question for the building inspector that goes around and, does he always make appointments with the people, or does he just randomly show up on people's properties to do checks on the permits?
There are appointments made for the building inspector by the property owner. If it is a potential code violation, as Bob noted, the building inspector can enter the property to review without notification.
Okay. Yeah, if he wants to do something, but I think if he has concern and just research it and find out, you know, where we're at. I just, as I said,
That's fine.
it's not something we're falling on deaf ears. People come with concerns. We want to at least try to address the situation and, you know, give them an answer. So,
Okay. Is there any additional public comment for the board tonight? Joe? You know, you could sit right in the front. We leave a whole row for you, Joe. Now, is it bride or groom?
I'll take my glasses off so I can put my name down the right way. There's a lot of letters. Okay, my 5 minutes, my comment is dealing with the writing of a citation and due process. So I'm glad Brandt's here. I'm going to start with one issue, and that is around the township, people have made comments about Tommy Ryan calling Dave Cornish to issue a citation. And between me and all of you up there, it doesn't matter if Tommy called anybody to write a citation. It's the person that holds the fiduciary duty to determine if they're going to write a citation or not. That's the only person responsible for it. You can have a number of people call, but as people would like to throw Tommy under the bus on this one, doesn't matter if he did it or not. It's the person standing there. Dave Cornish was the fire marshal. He looked at something. He determined that that violation was appropriate and wrote a citation. There was many comments made about that citation and that Dave Cornish didn't have the qualifications to write it. Well, by law, when you guys appoint him as fire marshal, he has the qualifications. And you're going to have to question that, meaning the person, if they appealed a citation and say, no, this person doesn't have the right to do it. But barring that, he has the authorization and the jurisdiction to write the citation. When a citation comes through, as Cameron came up here and said, look, how do I get rid of this? How do I appeal? That's what I thought he was saying. Bottom line here is, when you get a citation, you should have notice of how to appeal that citation. You have the right to pay the citation, but you do have a right to appeal it. As you go on with that, if you do not appeal that citation in a certain amount of time, you must pay the citation. Now, Cameron came in here and he was frustrated, and he says, I'm never paying the citation. Okay, well, you don't disrespect the rule of law, bottom line. You appeal it, and that's the bottom line. No one else is responsible except the two people that are involved, Cameron and Dave Cornish. Now, as time goes on, people make comments, well, he doesn't know how to appeal it or didn't appeal it, and he's not going to pay for it. I believe that this board needs to understand that the rule of law has to be adhered to. The citation was written, it must be enforced. And if that means we have to pay for the township to represent the township in order to get that, we need to do that. That's the bottom line. If that is not done, then you set precedent for other citations not to be enforced because you have past practice. So, if the citation was written incorrectly and it's withdrawn, people, one, should know that. And when you look at the state police, they give a call, their CAD, call IDs, and what happens? They looked at it, they either wrote a citation or not. Bottom line is, I believe the fire marshal should be held to that same standard so people know what's going on with burning and things of that. I come from Chicago. Chicago fire was a big thing. Fire is a huge part of Chicago's way of thinking. You can blame a cow, not from Marymead, but Mrs. O'Leary, or you could blame anyone else. But the bottom line is, there was a whole bunch of laws that were set in, ordinances set in to make sure that doesn't happen again. So what I am asking today in my comments is that you guys look at it, see it. If Dave Cornish wrote it inaccurately, he should go for training for that. If he did write it accurately, you guys need to enforce it. So that's where I'm at, and I know we all live together, and we're all, you know, we're all friends, or whatever you want to call it, I understand that, but we have to abide by a rule of law. So that's all my comment.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any public comment for the board tonight? Bert?
How you doing? This one will probably be easy for you, I hope. Last month before Christmas, I saw a lot of activity along Valley Forge Road over in the area near Township Line and Woodland Avenue, where they're talking about the widening of Valley Forge Road, updating the signals. Is there a timeline on that is one question. Another question I have is, are there drawings on this that we can see how it's going to impact that area specifically? I don't need answers on that tonight, but I'm just curious. I'm seeing lines painted on the road. I saw utilities out, and utilities were being marked. And whether they were working on the utilities there or whether they were doing preliminary work for the planning, I don't know. But as a point of information, not just for myself, but for others, I'd like to be able to see what the plan is, if not now, next month, down the road, when it's available.
Is it on the website, Tommy, already,
Yeah,
or not?
so if you go to the website, there's a search bar at the homepage, upper right-hand corner. Type the word corridor, and that's going to take you to the article. We update the Valley Forge Road corridor improvement, most recently updated a few days ago. There's a link to the current set of plans. The plans have been up there for a few months now, but the most recent set of plans was updated just last week.
Thank you.
The work that was happening around the time you mentioned, there were utility test pits that were being dug, and that was the work.
So the tougher question to answer is the timeline, and it's sort of ongoing, but we don't have a firm shovel goes in the ground on a certain date. There's money and all sorts of other legal items that are being dealt with, but it's sort of an ongoing project is, I guess, the best way to articulate.
Okay, so we can't say it's going to happen in 2022, or?
I can say a lot of things. That would be a misstatement for me to say that because we don't know that that's the case yet.
All right. Okay, yeah, I had
Soon.
seen a
Can we say soon?
preliminary plan on the website a while back, but I haven't looked at it lately to see that it was updated. So thank you, and I appreciate it.
Just to follow up to Rick's question, I'm surprised that the legal work that has, even legal engineering, is just between deeds and restrictions and who owns the property, who doesn't own the property. There's an awful lot of paperwork that goes into it, and it's a slow-moving train. So as Rick said, I can be assured
It's
that
moving. We know
it's moving. It's not moving very fast, but anytime,
It's a pretty big project.
yeah, it'll be a while.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bert. Does anybody else have any public comment for the board tonight? Okay, seeing none, motion to adjourn.